when it comes to politically motivated violence in 2022, every single murder was committed by a right-wing extremist.
Every single murder in America was committed by a right-wing extremist?
Every single politically motivated murder was committed by a right-wing extremist.
Are you sure about that?
I am.
Are you aware that the Tennessee shooter just recently identified as a man and she was a biological woman? Was she a right-wing extremist as well?
General Lady's time has expired. I'll allow the witness to answer the question.
So that was a shooting that happened in 2023. There is no evidence as to what ideology motivated that shooting.
I don't think she gets it. First of all, it's 2023 right now, and she mentioned 2022. Apparently she doesn't know when these shootings happen, but also politically motivated shooting. I don't know if she knows what those words mean either. She's gonna explain how much she doesn't know about much of anything as she goes back and forth with this one particular witness expert that's talking about our problem with right-wing, white supremacist violence. Hey, if you don't fall within those groups, you probably have no reason to defend them. But if you do, you'd be Marjorie Taylor Greene and you'd keep on going like she was here.
Miss Spitalnick, you were talking about white supremacists.
It's Spitalnick.
Oh, I apologize, Spitalnick. Miss Spitalnick, while you were talking about white supremacists and abortion, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of white supremacists in the abortion movement and abortionists because they have murdered over 20 million Black babies in America since Roe versus Wade in 1973. You think this is funny, Miss Spitalnick? Is this funny to you? Is babies being murdered in the womb funny to you? Because you're smirking and laughing at me right now.
What's not funny are the Black people and Hispanic people and Jewish people and Muslim people who have been murdered in synagogue, in church, in supermarkets, in mosques by white supremacists.
Are you aware that all colored people are murdered? That is a fact, that every single color person has been murdered. That's not unusual. It's not just that people of color are murdered. White people are murdered too. Murder is not just for minorities.
What? Look, I've heard it 3 times. And I still don't know what the hell she's talking about. Color people. There's color people and then there's non-color people. Some could be color and then they're colored. But did you know white people are murdered too? Again, she can't, if you listen, Marge, you'll understand what the statements are that your witness expert is trying to tell you, but instead the spin is all she's worried about. But when there's nothing to spin, you just spin yourself around in circles. One more clip here before you jump in here, Brett, because as she's going through this whole thing, who cares about the Black folks that are murdered? Who cares about the color person who was murdered and also continues to be targeted in these type of instances? But the one problem we have is that trans terrorism. Again, I'm not sure if she wants her constituents to believe the BS coming out of her mouth. I don't think she even does. Here's one more.
Just recently, there was a Trans Day of Vengeance, which is definitely not right-wing extremism or violence. This looks terrifying, and it's definitely from the left, because on the right, I can assure you we believe in 2 genders. It's male and female. And we support Title IX women's sports. You, Riley Gaines, and any other female athlete that wants biological men to stay out of their sports dressing rooms and women's privacy areas. This is what left-wing extremism and violence stems from, is the movement that wants to use trans terrorism against Americans, violating the whole idea of biological science, that there's 2 genders.
Still waiting for the evidence and information behind all this trans terrorism. Maybe if you get your damn sign correct before you start flashing it on TV, then we'll have maybe a better understanding of the nonsense that she's spewing really fast, because again, she's talking about this trans terrorism. The recount pointed this out. The Gun Violence Project counts more than 2,697 mass shootings in the US since 2018. Only about 4 were committed by shooters who identified as transgender. So I think you're starting to understand where they find their problems. Last one, Amy Spitalnick, who was the expert there that was arguing with Marge, she tweeted about what she went through. She goes, I just finished testifying at a nearly 3-hour House Homeland Security hearing that right-wing members like MTG used to normalize bigotry and hate against trans people and downplay white supremacist violence under the guise of addressing, quote, left wing violence. It was absolutely appalling. Brett, so there's Marge making a name for herself. And honestly, we can keep talking about how ridiculous she is, but I think many of the people who follow her and continue to vote for her are like, yes, that's right. I don't know what you're talking about. That's cool.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is the dumbest person I've ever witnessed in politics. It's one of those things where she is very representative of the general MAGA electorate in that they tell you stuff like, listen, there's a lot of evidence that this stuff is all messed up and we need to change America in a very significant way. We need to change all of America. And then you ask them, why? What's your evidence for that? And they don't understand the arguments they think they're capable of making. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, you can hold your glasses up, but we all know you can't read. Like she's like, I am an elected representative and I have a lectern I'm talking at and I have glasses. So I must be smart now. No, you're not. You're just not smart. In the right wing trying to get on the side of, oh my God, I am a champion of women's rights. If you're really a champion of women's rights, how about you champion things like equal pay for equal work? Like how about you champion things like reproductive rights? You're not gonna do that because you're not for women. You are a fascist. And you have been, the reason that she gloms on to the like, I wanna look at your genitals before you get to swim in a pool aspect of it is because it's just one of those interesting things people like to talk about right now is transgender participation in sports. But if you bring it back to people getting murdered by right-wing extremists, like I hate to break it to you, but like that conversation pales in comparison to the seriousness of people getting murdered. Like there's a lot of discussion and interesting back and forth talking we can do on how seriously we take if you have a penis or a vagina when you swim is like, there's a lot of decisions we can all make as a group and kind of, I think, based on the context of that activity, come to some kind of conclusion on. But the fact that she's trying to say like, she's at a left-wing extremism hearing and the witness is like, actually the only murders that happen are right-wing extremists who murder. She can't wrap her head around that because she's just too damn stupid. It's not that she's too obstinate. It's not that she's too stubborn. It's that she's too freaking dumb.
She can't figure it out. I mean, it'd be simple, maybe even better if I wonder if that's the case, because at least the stupidity, maybe we can at least get her out. But the problem in our situation is we continue to motivate and promote these types of folks. And again, she'll keep doing it, but she thinks she's so smart. That's the problem. Once you're this dumb and you don't understand what political violence means, you go, every person murdered in America?
That is insane. She said, I think the quote was, everybody's been murdered. Every single person has been murdered. Every person of every color has been murdered. Is she like Theon Greyjoy? Is she's like, what is dead may never die? Like, she is so, I hate to be this guy because I think there's a lot of very smart people who have been tricked. She's not one of them. She's just so painfully dumb. And unfortunately, we have to give her 5 minutes. What's impressive is in that 5 minutes, she says 20 minutes worth of stupidity.